there was recent news about combatives in the SEAL teams. What was the evolution towards MMA? So the SEAL teams has gone through a whole plethora of various kind of hand-to-hand combat type things. When I first came in, there was something called SCARS, and it stood for scientific something. But it was it sort of looked like a
Kung Fu.
Yeah, it was very. Actually, I think it was based on Sansu, right? Which is a martial art. Anyways, so that was kind of when I showed up there. Then we kind of morphed towards something a little bit more modern, and then we morphed towards something else. And so we were constantly kind of looking and searching for something that was efficient. We ended up going with this one contractor for several years. And, so use this one contractor for several years, and then eventually, especially once the war started, and we had guys on a regular basis doing hand-to-hand combat against the enemy. And for those of you that don't understand when that would happen, if we go into a building and there's people in there that don't have weapons, well, you can't just gun them all down. You have to get control of them. If they're military-age males, you probably got to cuff them. You got to get them down to the ground. You got to control them. Now, there's a whole variety of things that can happen. The guy can be unarmed but literally combative. He can square up and say, okay, it's on. We've seen that.
And people might be surprised to hear that people actually do that. You got a gang of big, tough SEALs there that are gonna put you down. Well, we've had multiple people like not comply.
Oh,
you're not gonna put me down, and it doesn't usually go too well for them.
So that's one end of the spectrum. Then you go down the spectrum where it's someone that just is scared and they're frozen with fear. So, but you're yelling at them to get down in Arabic, which is your Arabic's not great. You're yelling at them. They're scared. They freeze. So now what are you gonna do? You can't just stand there and keep yelling at them. You've got to get them to the ground, get them in control, so you continue the clearance. Then there's people that are gonna. So you've got, and then all the way down to someone that just they see you, they put their hands up, they lay down. That's great. That's easy. So as we started getting into these scenarios on a regular basis, we realized that the system that had been taught was ineffective, and and also luckily we had a bunch of guys in SEAL teams that were into jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai and wrestling and MMA in general. And so that kind of came in and people started saying, hey, why don't you just do this? And this will actually get a person under control. And actually, you told a good story to me today when we were talking about jiu-jitsu about that. Tell that. That's a good little explanation of where we were and where we got to.
Yeah, in my first platoon, we went through that training, and that was our prisoner handling training. So that's what we did, and that's what we practiced handling prisoners and searching them and putting them on the ground, all that stuff, handling them. And so we're told this is the way to do it. This is well. When we start going against role players, I remember one in particular. We're going against. We're in the kill house and we're moving through, and of course we're this isn't live fire. You're going against role players. They're shooting back at you with simunition, which is a paint round through our actual weapons. It's great training because then you have to deal with people. You have to actually wrestle with people. You actually have to engage targets, or they're shooting back at you. Outstanding training, and we've talked about that before. But it is. One of the things that really stood out to me was I remember one particular guy, one of the role players was a pretty large guy. I mean, he was probably 6'4", 6'5", like 250-pound guy, big guy. And and
this guy wasn't a SEAL.
He wasn't a SEAL. I think he was a gunner's mate or something. He was just volunteering to come up and be a role player. Great, helps us with training. And so, a smaller role player, you're able to get them down to the ground, hold them, and get a search on them. And me and another one of our guys, who was a big guy. I mean, this guy had arms as big around as my legs. This SEAL was a large man, very strong guy. And we grabbed this guy. We're trying to get him to the ground, and he's not being compliant. He's resisting us, and it's hard. I mean, this is difficult for me and this other guy. And we're not small guys. I mean, we're strong guys. We're getting this guy to the ground, but he's not cooperating, and we're having a hard time keeping him down. Another one of our guys, who was actually a lot smaller than us, he was probably a 180-pound guy. I'm 200 pounds, and the other SEAL I was describing is probably 230-pound guy. And so this other SEAL comes up, and he's like a 180-pound guy. He's trained jiu-jitsu.
He got a little bit of that jiu-jitsu.
He spent a little time, at the Gracie Academy, and was one of the first guys I knew who was pretty skilled in jiu-jitsu, and he gets this big guy that the role players wrestling around that Gunner's made and not cooperating. We're wrestling around with him. He comes up there, gets the guy, gets a knee on him, goes like knee on stomach, and the guy can't do anything. And here's this 180-pound guy completely controlling this large guy that two of us couldn't do before. And I was like, I need to start training some jiu-jitsu because that stuff works. And it was just a reality of like body control. I can control this guy. I mean, knee on stomach, get his arms, got him zip tied, done. I mean, he actually, when we debriefed with him, he comes now he's out of his role player element. He's like, hey, that was pretty cool. And then I think he actually probably started training some jiu-jitsu because he realized like just how effective it was for a guy who really understood body control to be able to just get a knee on him, hold him down, and be able to control him even though he was half the size of this dude.
Interestingly, that's why most of us start.
Because they feel
it happens to you,
absolutely.
And you're like, whoa. That was like...
You're like, how's this guy who's,
yeah.
He looks so much smaller than me and he's just crushing me. How's that possible? Yeah.
So that was, and that case that you just described happened, like, every day in the SEAL team, somebody else that knew some jiu-jitsu, would have that scenario happen, and eventually the correct answer rises up, and people say, hey, look, this is working, this is not working, and so that's how we ended up with more of an MMA-based approach, because it's not just pure jiu-jitsu, it's everything. It's Muay Thai, it's boxing, it's weapons retention pieces to it. It's hitting people, learning how to hit people with your gun, what we call a muzzle strike, which is, again, this is one of those things where we kind of would be told that the muzzle strike would just...
It will kill people.
Yeah, it would kill people, or is going to definitely incapacitate them instantly and knock people out. And the fact of the matter is, and I know Leif and I have seen... I don't even know how many people I've seen muzzle strikes over and over and over again. And it just, the amount, I don't even think I ever saw an actual knockout. I mean, you see some damage, it hurts, and it cuts the person's face open, and it makes them bleed everywhere, and it's a complete nightmare, and you have to take them to medical, and it's just a bad thing. Whereas somebody that knows a little bit of MMA can go in and get control of these people and take them down, and it's no factor. So that's what ended up taking over, and it's definitely a good thing and a positive thing, and it's been cool to talk to the guys that are now carrying on with the program.